Hi, this is Dr. Mike Carberry, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about why my wife fell in love with chiropractic. Some of you know the story. When I got involved in chiropractic, I was a business person first. My background, I have a business degree. I was in sales and marketing and advertising, and I got injured. The injury was to my neck, and it left me temporarily paralyzed. And they thought I broke my neck, and I'm not going to go into that story, but they figured out I didn't break my neck and I was on medication. I decided to go to a chiropractor because medication wasn't working anymore. It actually wasn't that it wasn't working. I was losing track of time. I missed a couple of days. I went to a chiropractor. My wife is a physical therapist. Her background is in traumatic brain injury and stroke rehabilitation, which is a very specific niche in physical therapy. So she wanted to go to protect me. So she went with me to the chiropractor's office. She had heard things when she went to school to get her PT degree that chiropractors, they never actually came out and said they were bad, but they never associated a chiropractor with a good scenario. She had this tainted view of chiropractic, and she was going to protect me. But I went, and she listened to the chiropractor speaking. My wife leaned over to me while he walked out of the room and said, "This doctor is going to put the keys back on the keyboard to the computer." I had no idea what she was talking about, but I learned since that time, and now I'm going to share it with you. So my wife's background as a head injury physical therapist, she would work on a team. Her patients, when they came to her, 75% of them were in a coma, and her job was to wake them up out of the coma. Now on that team was cognitive therapist, speech therapist, occupational therapist, my wife's the physical therapist, and a physiatrist. So the physical therapist's job was to wake them up. The way they did that, and the way they still do it to this day, is they take that comatose patient and they put them on what's called a tilt table. This is a table that when they lay the patient flat on there, they can strap them in, and there's a platform for their feet. So when they tilt this up into a weight-bearing position, and it could be at varying degrees, they're putting weight on the weight-bearing joints of the body. Now the reason they were doing that, and the reason they still do this, is the weight-bearing joints of the body have nerve endings called proprioceptors. And these proprioceptors are sensing load. See, this is how you navigate. When you're going through your daily function, your brain is doing certain things. Functioning and looking at the exterior environment, and it's looking at the interior environment. Interior environment is what's going on in your body. Exterior is what's going on around you. And if I were to ask you which is the superior or the primary one, it's the exterior environment. Because if you're walking down the street and a lion pops out, you have to navigate that very quickly. You're not going to work on digesting your lunch when you're about to become lunch. What you're going to do is you're going to stop focusing on fixing your body, and you're going to send all of your energy and all of your reflexes and all of your blood to your muscles so you can do what's called fight or flight. Run away or fight the lion. I'm going to run. But anyway, this is what she would do. When they would load those weight-bearing joints, one of the things they do is those proprioceptors create a process in the brain called synaptogenesis, or the creation of new pathways in the brain. It's important that as you go through the day, you load and unload your weight-bearing joints to program your brain. Your body learns from the process of movement and loading and unloading your weight-bearing joints. This is why kids are so fidgety when they're kids. And it's why you should let your kids jump around and horse around and climb around and do all the crazy things that kids do, because that's how they program their brains. They have a growing brain, and doing that activity is what a child needs to do. In this case, what my wife summarized is, okay, your spine between sacrum and occiput is 90% of your weight-bearing joints. And if your weight-bearing joints are stuck, let's say you have a couple of vertebrae that get stuck, which is what chiropractors work on, those stuck joints are no longer sending information to the brain. It's like taking the keys off the keyboard to the computer. So what she surmised was, when I was going to get adjusted, he was taking joints that were stuck, that's what we do, and unstick them, which would restore the information of the external environment back to my brain in a more complete form. This way my brain has more data to operate off of, and it can actually create new synapses based on the information coming in. If somebody's walking around with a stuck vertebrae, chiropractors commonly refer to this as a subluxation. That vertebrae is doing a lot of things, and there's some things it's not doing, like it's not pumping nutrition back into the disc in between the two vertebrae. What it's not doing is it's not pumping that fluid, and it's also not sending information to the brain from the weight-bearing joints and the proprioceptors that are stimulating that brain. So she realized, holy crap, this is pretty important. We need to get that information going again. So going to a chiropractor would be the best thing you could do. And in one instant, this physical therapist, who was very beautiful and I ended up marrying, completely changed her viewpoint based on what she was observing happening to me, and did a 180 on her viewpoint on chiropractic, and went, chiropractors are the most important doctors that you could go to, because they're restoring this pathway which restores information to your brain so your body can operate better and more effectively, more efficiently. So that viewpoint has never left her. Since that day, 37 years ago, she's actually, when we first had kids, she said, when those kids are born, the only doctor going to be in the room is you, meaning me. So we had midwives, and I was the only doctor in the room. And she said, the first thing you're going to do when that child is born is you're going to check their spine and see if they need an adjustment, because that birth is a trauma. And that's what I did. And then she said, the other thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be adjusting me, meaning her, as she's going through labor and delivery, because she realized if the pelvis is stuck, that's going to make delivery harder. My wife was a real trooper when we had kids. When we had the last child, she was 40. And when we got done, we said, can we leave? And they said, no, the law in Pennsylvania is you have to stay here for at least 6 hours. So we're like, what are we going to do for 6 hours? And they said, you can lay down on the cots. So we're in there talking, looking at the new baby, holding the new baby. And finally the midwife came in and said, you know what, you guys can just go. So we went back to our house, and it turns out her daughter was born 3 days after my wife's birthday, which also happened to be my mother-in-law's birthday. So they were having a party at our house for all these birthdays, including the new one. So when we left the labor and delivery, the midwifery center, we went to this party, and I remember my sister-in-law saying to my wife, as she's sitting there talking to her, rocking the baby, I cannot believe I'm sitting here talking to you at a party and you had a baby today. So that's how it went. And my wife completely endorses chiropractic to this day as the most important doctor you can go to. So remember this, doctors, when you are adjusting that spine, you're doing a lot more than relieving pain and pressure, and a lot more than restoring just nutrition to the disc, which is all important. What you're also doing is you're opening up a communication line from the external environment to the brain. So the brain now has a better way of running the body and healing the body. Remember that, because it's a very important thing we do, and it gets overlooked all the time. And that is why my wife fell in love with chiropractic.